Hello, welcome back to Lilienburg. It's been a while, but I say that every time it seems, so we're just going to get straight into it. We're going to be building some slides in today's video, but first we will be finishing off the queue for the chairlift, which the station building for that was built in the last episode, which was about 5 months ago. I'm sorry about the delay in this series. I've been quite busy, to be honest, and I will be busy again in the future, so please don't expect consistent regular uploads. But I am really starting to enjoy building on this park. I've thoroughly enjoyed all of the work that went into this time-lapse video, and I've got ideas for new rides that will be built after this, because we don't actually build any rides in this video, or at least not any operational rides. The slides, as you see later on, they won't be able to be ridden by the guests, quite obviously, but they were fun to make and they look really good and add some nice realism and detail to this kind of park. But yeah, we're just doing a few small details around the paths to hide away those nasty looking curbs, a few little rocks here and there. And whilst we do that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the activity of the channel recently. Even though we've not been that active recently, I put out my most ever viewed video, I think, and it was a collaboration project in Planet Coaster. It was a small project compared to something like this, but it was really fun to do, and we're both really proud of the work. I say both of us, that's because I did this with my friend Luke, who you might know as Theme Park LB. So he made a video with this project. It's called Polaris, if you didn't already know. I would love for you to check that out because we're so proud of it. But across both of our channels we hit over 3,000 views, which is amazing, and on both videos we got comments from channels that I genuinely just sit and watch all the time, so it's amazing to see that they've actually watched my content. So shout out to Northern Rides, Rudy Renkamel and Digital Dan, and everyone else who watched that video. I just want to say thank you, because we put a lot of work into it, and even though there wasn't much to show for that work, it was just two-minute videos, the amount of support we got from that is amazing. So we're very glad to see that the work paid off, and hopefully the work will pay off for this series too. So I'm going to keep building this, and hopefully we'll get it nearly complete, because I think Lilienburg's been in the work for over a year now. I think around about this time marks the 1 year anniversary of it, which is quite a long time, because my previous projects have never gone on for this long. I think Beartooth Hill Bike Park only lasted, what, 3 or 4 months, and that was quite a huge park, so I'm surprised how quickly I managed to build that. But I think that was probably to do with lockdown, because with the exams being cancelled I had all the time in the world, and now I've got my A-levels coming up and it doesn't look like those are going to be cancelled, so I will have less time to play this game. But when I do play the game, I will make it into videos for you guys to see. So I hope you enjoy this and the Planet Coaster videos that are going to be coming up on the channel. As for non-Planet Coaster videos, theme park vlogs, I have uploaded a few of these over the summer, but I don't expect to be going to any more parks this year. I definitely won't be leaving the country, but maybe that will be able to happen next year in 2022. So I don't know whether I'm going to upload any non-Planet Coaster videos, but if you want me to do some rankings, stuff like that, lists, reviews, anything along those lines, just let me know in the comments, and I can diversify my content a little bit more so that it's not just Planet Coaster, as it has been for a lot of this year. Although across the summer I have been doing other things, such as visiting Oakwood, Blackpool Pleasure Beach, Alton Towers, so that explains why there's been a bit less Planet Coaster than normal. But now there's something pretty interesting happening on the screen, and it may look like it, but we're not actually building a coaster. This was with the mod. I had an idea to put a little chairlift prop in the queue line, and of course the chairlift is a ride. Well, obviously it's a ride, that's what this ride is, but in the queue I thought I could have a spare chairlift seat just sat there, and I managed to use the mod to do this, because you can do infinite train swaps, so I can put a chairlift train on literally any coaster with the mods. I'll put a link in the description for the mods because they are really helpful. And basically I've put this on an invisible LSM holding section, which means that you can close the ride and it will just stay there on the track, floating in midair, which looks great. I put it along a little cable, as you saw there, so it's just a fun little bit of theming. I also added some shirts hanging on the line. That's just because it doesn't make sense. I don't know who, like, come on, who on earth hung the shirts there? What are you doing, mate? Why would you put it on a chairlift cable? So I'm not too sure myself why that is, but I feel like a park like this, something similar to Tripsdrill, they have random bits of theming, you know. In Tripsdrill, in the, well, not in the queue line, but at the exit of Carajo, there's that famous animatronic, the guy throwing up into a bucket, and it's just random characteristics like that that make this park gain a lot of character and make it, I guess, become really charming. Lilienburg is very, very inspired by Tripsdrill, so I wanted to have that vibe as much as possible, and that is being upheld again here with the rock work along this gradually sloping uphill path, just very nature involved. Some of the scenery I've put around this queue as well is kind of inspired by an alpine meadow, so little bits of flowers here and there. Well, because it is a chairlift ride, I kind of want it to feel a bit alpine, even though this park would just be located in the German countryside, so there wouldn't really be any huge snowy peaks nearby, but that's the theme for this ride. Well, I call it a ride, but it's more of a means of transportation, because I decided that this park is way too sloped. I probably should have made the slope more shallow, but it's too late to change that now, so a chairlift would be a very helpful feature to help guests save their energy instead of having to walk up to the top of this hill where there will be some more rides, but everything in this park for now is all at the bottom of the hill. But yeah, there was a park I went to, Gulliver's Kingdom. I think it's quite close to Alton Towers. It's just a family park, but there is a chairlift ride on that because that is on a hill as well. So I will be looking at that park, the design of that park. Maybe not the rides because it's a very small park. It doesn't really have any thrill rides whatsoever. But I will be looking at that to look at the design, but not necessarily inspiration on the scale of it. But yeah, I used a lot of mulching actually here because the queue making it elevated means that the terrain just doesn't want to help you. I think if you've played this game, you'll know what I mean. You can't put the terrain next to path when it's levitating like that. So I've had to put custom terrain in, if you like, which is these mulch TMTK pieces, which you can recolor, so they're really helpful to just look like a bit of dirt underneath all these rocks and shrubbery. But the shrubbery on top of it is the most important thing, because I wouldn't use the mulch on its own to act as terrain. I think it just provides a background, a back layer, but the flowers and bushes, as you can see here, that's what really makes this thing come to life. But with this, we've pretty much finished the queue line for this. Obviously it's a bit empty on one side, but when I expand the park out that way, that will then become all complete. And with that done, it's time to start the slides. So the idea of building this came up, well, after I'd put the chairlift in place. I saw a gap between the chairlift and the main street path, and I kind of wanted to put something in there more than just trees. So I thought a nice, compact, thin racing slide just like this would be a good fit, and that is what we're going to be building, with 4 slides going all alongside each other. And I think this fits even better because it follows the gradient of the hill. You'll see me recolor the slides soon. These are actually TMTK pieces, if you didn't already know, and they're really good. They've got all sorts of pieces. I think they're intentionally designed for a water slide, but who says you can't use them as a normal slide, right? So that's what we're doing, and I'm really happy with how this looks. One issue with TMTK is that sometimes it doesn't reflect light the same way. You can see as I change the angle, it starts to have this white blue kind of hue, it's just a bit of a reflection, so because of that I decided to completely change the colour to blue so that it's less noticeable, because if the colour, it sort of shimmers if it's the same colour as blue, then you're not going to notice it this way. And I think the beigey brown colour I had initially, I think that worked quite well, but with it being blue, I guess I could theme it to a waterfall or something like that. But for now I've given it the name Sommerrutschen, which basically just means summer slides, just very generic, but if I decide to add a bit more light theming to this, I can easily change that. But yeah, we're making a walkway now alongside these slides. This was a bit of a pain to do, with every single step being a single wooden plank, and then of course I have to support this as well. It took a long time and it was a bit of a tedious process, but it was worth it in the end. I'm really happy with how the design for this is. One thing I'm a little bit concerned about is that it's not actually wheelchair friendly, because I couldn't really get a way to have a ramp going up it. It's kind of too tight to fit in a ramp, so I'm afraid that's just not a thing. But quite comically, one fault I made in the start of building this park is that I had an elevator on near the car park. I had an elevator to go up to the bridge to take you over the road. The elevator was only on one side, which means if you go up in a wheelchair to get onto the bridge, there's no way down the other side, it's just stairs. So yeah, that happened. So I guess we don't pride ourselves at this park for being all-inclusive, but oh well, it's just a game, right? I think I'm thinking about that too much. It's not that deep. We're just doing supports now, using these random pull TMTK pieces. Quite simple stuff, but it looks good because they're quite low off the ground, and you'll see later on that I cover this up so that you don't really see it, it just looks like slides. You'll see what I mean later. But there's not really too much to say here, it's just a bit of beams and stuff going in everywhere, trying to make it look like it's realistically structurally sound so it wouldn't collapse. So there's random bits of supporting on the back. I didn't do any calculations to see if this would actually hold, but it looks good enough. And then we've got footers in here, of course, so that the supports don't slip around into the ground. You know, you've got a solid bit of concrete that's not going to go anywhere. And then the other process of supporting this is adding little backbones down the back of the wooden panel step things, just to hold it all into place. Again, it's a realism, because I don't want anything to be floating. I don't want people to look at it and think, hang on, how is that, how does that stand? That would fall over in the real world. But no, at Lilienburg we want everything to properly stand up. And again, there's a few more bits of supporting to be doing, but that's pretty much all the supporting done, I think. I'm going to talk a little bit about the context of the slide. There are no carpet mats that there normally would be, you know, like on a Helter Skelter. And a park in the Netherlands that I went to called Driefleet, they had some slides like this, and they were actually good fun to do. They had little mats that you'd sit in and go down, and I don't know if they're necessary. I think they're mainly to control your speed so that you go to like a certain speed rather than either being too slow or too fast. But at the bottom of this slide you'll soon see that we put in some crash mats so that if you go too fast you're not going to get hurt, you'll just go into a nice soft landing at the end. And then there's some fences on the side here as well. But yeah, this slide is, I guess, just a bit of a family friendly thing to do. I think this park as a whole will be a bit of a family park, but I still want to have some decent sized coasters. I think Rotoblitz will probably be the only true thrill coaster, so I don't think we're going to have any more inversions in this park. But I think we could still have a few more thrilling flat rides, but there'll be quite a lot of family coasters. I've got pretty much every family coaster that I'm going to build in this park I already have in mind. and I'm afraid I can't tell you that now. You'll have to wait until we start building them, and we might get round to building one next episode. I'm just thinking what we need to do next, because in this episode we pretty much finish all of the main street off. So we've got 2 ways to start expanding the park. It's to the left as you enter. Along that path we could do something there, you know, on the side where the chairlift station queue is, or we could keep on going up the hill, and there is some space where I plan to have another area just above the Rotor Blitz and Dynamite Steampunk area. So I'll have an area there which I'm going to have themed to fairy tales in general, with quite a few rides being themed to different fairy tales. So not heavy theming, but just quite nice nature around everything, and some quite unique coaster types, and you'll see what I mean when we get around to building those coasters. But this is what I meant here about covering up the supports. We put just some bushes in, really. I think this is all that I needed to do. I was initially going to have some fencing underneath this, but then it kind of didn't match up with itself properly. There were little bits overlapping which didn't look too nice, so I thought, oh, it's fine, I can just put bushes on there and it's good. And I didn't put bushes covering up the spots on the other side, and that's because it's not visible from the path, but it would be a cool feature to see that you can see the underside of the slide structure from the chairlift ride, so you can trust that it is held up safely. But I'm pretty sure people don't really think about that unless you're a proper nerd like me. When you go to a park, I don't think you worry about whether the ride's actually going to stand up. You just think, oh, that looks fun, let's go and ride it. Meanwhile, I'm here looking at all the supports thinking, oh wow, look, that's shaking. And fun fact, if it didn't shake, it would actually crack, and that wouldn't be good for anyone. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you guys also have the same thoughts as me, and if not, then what are you even doing here? Yeah, we're going to be putting some little cobblestones around here, and this is the little park map actually, and you'll see soon that I do put a map on here, and you'll have to guess what park it's from. It's from one of my old Planet Coaster projects. But yeah, I used temple earpieces to make these rocks. They do work quite well. They're in the adventure park. As long as you rotate them so that the actual ear feature of it is not visible, they work quite well. I think they're a pretty weird piece. I don't know why you'd need to have an ear. I guess it's for like statues and stuff, but it doesn't seem like a major thing. But I think most people use them as little bricks rather than actual ears, which is quite funny. But yeah, some flowers around here, just a nice little rustic thing to welcome you into the park. But yeah, now we're going to be putting some trees in these hedges, which I've planned to do for a while, but I wasn't going to do it until all the buildings and stuff around were done. But that's all from me. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.
Buckle up, it's a drill ride.